I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Mistress Carrie Situation Report for December 28th, 2023. Your daily entertainment headlines, industry info, and everything rock. An update on the Dave Grohl art auction. He raised thousands of dollars for charity with his drawings on the back of a cardboard box with a Sharpie. Drawing instructions for making a beer funnel and a sneaky device for smuggling hash into gigs. The Foo Fighters frontman was asked to create unique pieces of art for a charity auction hosted by See Here Now. The auction closed yesterday, and the artworks raised a combined $14,152 for 7 charities. On the latest episode of the Metallica Report podcast, James Hetfield and Robert Trujillo talked about some of the highlights of the M72 World Tour, as well as their goals for the next year. Trujillo mentioned that he was studying French during the pandemic and would like to go back to learning languages, as well as to get more organized in his domestic life. Papa Het said, quote, "I don't usually put a lot of stock into New Year's stuff, but reflecting on the past year, I'm super grateful for what I've got and what I've gone through. I always really look forward to what the next year will bring. The older I get, the harder and easier it gets. So I'm always looking forward to getting back out on the road, playing some shows, and seeing some familiar faces and some new faces." He continued, "I guess the new year is kind of cleansing, and I've got a new goal or something. I just really want to continue to try and improve myself to get better and have a better attitude about life and about other people's lives, and just try to bring as much joy to people as possible." Speaking of Metallica, they have launched official pro shot video of The Unforgiven from their first show in Saudi Arabia. The footage comes from the Soundstorm Festival in Riyadh, where public entertainment events were banned until 2016. Black Flag have announced the 2024 leg of its My World Tour. The leg will see the legendary punk rock band perform all of its influential 1984 album, My War. That'll be the first set. The second set is going to draw mostly from Nervous Breakdown through Damaged. Black Flag formed in 1976 in Hermosa Beach, California, and made music from 1978 until the mid-'80s, featuring several lead singers, including Keith Morris, Ron Reyes, Des Cadena, and Henry Rollins. Lamb of God guitarist Mark Morton is celebrating 5 years of sobriety, posting on social media yesterday. "Today, after years of alcoholism and drug addiction, I celebrate 5 years clean and sober. If you're reading this and struggling with addiction, please know that recovery is possible for you. It's so worth it, I promise. You're worth it. Find someone in recovery and ask for help." Fellow musicians like Phil Labonte, Nita Strauss, and Lizzie Hale were quick to congratulate him on the milestone. Green Day's Billie Joe Armstrong has voiced his thoughts on the current emo revival. Speaking with The Guardian alongside his bandmates Mike Dirnt and Trey Cool, discussing the first 2 singles from their upcoming new album, Saviors, saying, quote, "Emo was dead. Then 5 years later, we're having emo club night. Like, aren't you supposed to wait another 5 years for this? My Chemical Romance just broke up. I think streaming and the way things go viral now is fueling it. There's this band, the Walters, that broke up 4 years ago, and suddenly they have this song that's everywhere. Same thing with the Deftones. All of a sudden, their music is showing up on all these TikTok videos. There's this new algorithmic way of discovering new stuff. It's really prevalent in rock music, and it shows how people are paying less attention to the radio and other traditional platforms." Bruce Dickenson recently unveiled the first single and music video off of his upcoming solo album, The Mandrake Project. The song Afterglow of Ragnarok premiered accompanied by a cinematic and dark video at the opening of CCXP 23, Brazil's huge Comic-Con event in Sao Paulo. Dickenson also announced an upcoming comic collaboration with Z2 Comics, saying, quote, "So the Mandrake Project is an album. The name of the album, the comic, is a 12-episode graphic novel, kind of adult. There's lots of stuff in it. There's lots of sex and drugs and violence and all kinds of stuff. But it's basically a story about a guy who is looking for his identity. Dr. Necropolis. He's an orphan, he's a genius, and he hates it, and he hates life, but he's involved in the Mandrake Project." Roads to Madness, the touring history of Queensryche, 1981 to 1997, is now available for pre-order at nwmetalworksmusic.com. The book is set to be published in March of 2024. Roads to Madness covers the band's beginnings in the 1980s as an opening act for bands like Dio and Metallica, to Queensryche's heralded days as a headliner in arenas and amphitheaters throughout the 1990s. The book is a deep dive into all of the concert dates that feature Queensryche's original lineup of Chris DeGarmo, Eddie Jackson, Scott Rockenfield, Jeff Tate, and Michael Wilton. The oversized book spans 450 pages and includes verified set lists, tour history essays, fan commentary on shows, stage banter, live photos, show memorabilia imagery, and so much more. Kings of Leon have shared a personal tribute to the pub that hosted their first ever UK gig after news emerged that it's shutting down. The White Horse in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire is set to close its doors for the last time on Saturday night. Speaking to the BBC, the band said the White Horse was our first taste of rock and roll and hardcore fans. We never knew if we would play another tour, so we soaked up every second and smell, the latter being an instant regret. There will always be a special place in our hearts for the White Horse. Thank you for the memories. And proving once again to be a national treasure, Dolly Parton proved to be a Christmas angel as well, taking time out of her pre-holiday rush for a call with a lifelong fan who's battling cancer to fulfill the man's bucket list wish. Utah resident LeGrand Gold, who goes by LG, was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer 2 years ago. He and his wife Alice created a bucket list, or list of living. Scribing it on a napkin to keep his spirits up, number 7 was meet Dolly Parton. He said, quote, "I thought, well, it's never going to happen." After a story about his wish went viral following a devastating turn in his diagnosis, Dolly Parton indeed helped him cross another item on his bucket list. That's your sit rep. For more details on all of the stories, check the links in the show notes of this episode. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie Podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Episode 186, featuring Tim Montana, is available now.